What's up, ladies? Welcome back to the channel. If you saw last week's video, you've been patiently awaiting the drop of this one. Today we are going through the absolute basics and necessities of things that you must have in order to start your handmade bath and body product business. Let's go. Now, before we get started, I want you to go ahead and grab that product list, like your initial launch line list that we made in last week's video. And if you haven't watched that, I highly recommend you pause this video here, watch that one, and then come back, because you are going to need that list. It plays a huge role in grabbing or kind of budgeting for your necessities. The other thing you're going to need to do is grab either a blank piece of paper, or if you prefer to use a computer or tablet, open up a brand new Google Sheet. Either way, you want to have a place where you can keep track of a running list of things that you'll need before you get started. All right, so the first set of things that you are going to want to write down on your list are all of the ingredients that you need in order to actually create the products that you have on your launch line sheet. Here, you're going to want to make sure that you write down all of the individual products, and don't forget to put like your fragrance oils, your mica powders, or however you plan to color your products, oils, additives, powders, just anything and everything that you will need to create those products. Now, it is a little bit tricky when you're starting out to try and figure out what the conversions will be, or how much product a raw ingredient mixed with the others will produce. But just as like a jumping off point, I have found for me personally that if I'm using melt and pour base, that 2 pounds of that will make me about 8 bars of soap. And then similarly with bath bombs, I have found that in almost, I think it's like 1.8 pound canister of citric acid. I'll link like the exact one that I use down below, but that entire container will make me between 20 and 25 bath bombs. Now, of course, there are tons of different variables that come into play here, but at least that could kind of give you a little bit of an insight, especially for those harder to find in-person ingredients like citric acid and soap bases, right? Some ingredients are really easy to find, like baking soda or almond oil. You know, you can really easily find those at the grocery store, at Target, at Walmart. But I have found, at least in my area, that like citric acid and the soap base that I prefer to use aren't able to be purchased locally. So I do kind of have to play with those numbers ahead of time in order to like produce the amount of soaps or product that I want. Kind of along those same lines, before we move into like the next category of things that you'll need is or are mold to make your products. If you're using bath bombs, you need bath bomb molds. If you're making soap, you need a soap mold. So just kind of whatever equipment, I guess would be a better word for it, that you will need in order to make your products, don't forget to order those. Our next category is the ever important and time-sucking to research packaging. This is, of course, the packaging that you're going to use to ship and contain your products. Now, there are tons of different packaging options, and I could probably do like an entire series on the pros and cons of each different type of packaging. If you want to see that, comment that down below. Really, I'm sure it would be full of tons of value. But essentially, you need something to put your product inside when shipping, and things inside of that box to prevent damage from happening to your products once it leaves your hands. Really quick, before we get into more specifics, I do have to say that I highly recommend not using poly mailers. I could see like potentially a padded bubble mailer working, but I don't think that that's going to be the best to protect your items, and especially since you've put so much work and effort and you like made them by hand and you want them to arrive to your customer in the absolute best manner that it can. So I don't think that using poly mailers is a good choice here. I much prefer to use boxes. You're also going to need that packaging for the inside of your box. So I would say offhand, like the quickest that you could probably get and the most inexpensive that you could get would be like craft paper. I know they sell it. I mean, well, this might be a little bit different for me because I live in Maryland, and obviously we have like Maryland blue crabs, like legit Maryland blue crabs. So they sell craft paper at like every store because we use it to top our crab tables with. So you could use craft paper, you could use biodegradable packing peanuts. I know they have tons of those on Amazon. You could use crinkle paper, you could use tissue paper, but again, I do think that just tissue paper won't be enough to protect your products from being damaged in transport. There are just tons and tons and tons of different options available to you, but just, you know, off the top of my head, those are the few that I'm thinking of. If you've already gotten started and you have a packaging kind of like style that you like, feel free to comment that down below. I truly want this to be like a community, and I really honestly feel like there is space for all of us within our community here. The more the merrier, I feel. So if you're of that like mind, go ahead and comment what you used for packaging down below. And especially if you've tried packaging that is like terrible, I'd love to hear that too. The final part of packaging, I would say, is branding materials. You want people to know that this is your business. You want to display that. You want to give information about it. You just want to make sure that there's no confusion on where they got their product. So I'm talking actual product labels. I'm talking packaging labels, all of those things, right? As far as my branding goes, again, I'm really working on a tight budget, and then things just got a little bit tighter because we actually are selling our house. So I'm not exactly sure how much longer I'm going to be here. So if I don't have like a firm date on when something will be shipped to my house, then right now I can't really order it. So what I have done was I purchased clear labels for the printer that I currently have. I currently have an inkjet printer. We do want to get a laser printer. Both my husband and I will use it not only for this, but for both of our like day jobs. But again, because we're moving, that's not a purchase that we're making right now. It's just honestly one more thing to move when we do go. So I purchased label paper. I purchased clear sticker paper from Amazon. Don't forget, you need to order. If you decide to go this route, don't forget to pick the label paper or the sticker paper that goes with your type of printer. I had to choose inkjet because again, it's currently an inkjet printer. Double check that before you actually order it. And I'm just going to print my labels from my computer to the printer that we currently have. That's all I can do right now. And I just, you know, I'm hanging on to the fact that I know once we move, once we get that new printer, I'll be much, much happier with the result of that. There are tons of places, especially like Etsy, Avery, like Avery Labels, averylabels.com. You can make your own. And I found that those were really relatively inexpensive, especially depending on like the size of your business. But again, just for me right now, I need something that like I can control when it will arrive to me. I haven't gotten this far yet, but I do plan on putting like postcards or business cards in each of my orders. I will likely create them myself and then have them printed at like the UPS store or like Staples, because they have that nice, really thick, and they can make it look way more professional. So that's a great option. I know you can also have them printed on tons and tons of different websites. Just if you're gonna do that, I would say to shop around, because sometimes places, especially somewhere like Zazzle, I've used Zazzle in the past and I had great experience, but later found out that it was so much more expensive. So just kind of do your research if you plan on doing something like that to make sure that you're getting the best deal that you possibly can. It has come to And now we are at that time where I pause the value and content that I'm giving you and ask that you click that subscribe button. It's free, it only takes a second, and it really helps out not only my handmade business, but our community here. All right, here's our final category, and it's probably like the least like attractive out of all of them, but they are absolute necessities. And those are going to be things to store your items in and sanitization materials. The number one item that we have in this category is gloves, okay? Now, the gloves are kind of twofold. One, they prevent you from spreading bacteria from your hands to your handmade products, right? It's classic sanitization, but the other is to actually protect your skin. When you're working with these products, oftentimes they do include like raw ingredients that might damage your skin. So if you're making cold process soap, you'll be using lye, which can burn your skin, give you a nice little chemical burn because of its corrosive properties. And in addition to that, if you're making bath bombs or something containing citric acid, that can really strip away like the enamel on your fingernails. And if you're like me, or you just like to paint your nails, it can take away your nail polish, interestingly enough. So just having those really helps not only protect you, but protect your customers. Now, I know nobody wants to hear this because of the current state of the world, but something else that you want to use to protect yourself is to wear a face mask. I just wear a cloth face mask. I'm not currently working with lye that has like a lot of harsh fumes or damaging fumes, so I don't have that going, but I do again work with citric acid, so I just wear my regular face masks that I would wear if I was going like to the grocery store or something like that. But you do want to make sure that you're protecting yourself and anyone that might be working with you from those harmful fumes by wearing a face mask. Finally, the last part that goes along with what we were just talking about: when you make your products, where are you going to store them? I personally have cleared out a section of kitchen cabinets and I store all of my products in there, but I do foresee as I grow that being a little bit of a challenge. So if you don't have the kitchen space, or if you're growing too big for that kitchen space, congratulations first of all, but you do need somewhere to store that. So like those, tiered plastic containers work, shelving. Definitely double check to make sure that you have those, or at least thoughts in place for when it comes to that point. Because honestly, depending, those shelving units or plastic containers, they can really add up in price. Have that in the back of your mind, because eventually and hopefully you will need that sometime. All right, guys, that's all we have for today's video. Now, before you go, I do want you to double check that you have subscribed and click that notification bell, because in my next video, I'm gonna show you exactly how I would spend $100 if that was the only money I had to start my handmade business, okay? That's where we're going in next week's video. You definitely don't wanna miss it. In the meantime, let's chat in the comments below. I can also meet you over on TikTok. See you next week. Bye.